Jake Morrison stood in the center of the Great Hall on Zentera Prime. The crystal walls rose high above him, reaching toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Around him sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Each one looked down at him with eyes that held no warmth. The human ambassador kept his back straight and his face calm. He had known this day would come. For months, the whispers had grown louder in the galactic corridors. Humanity was a problem. Humanity was dangerous. Humanity did not belong. Empress Keela THYSS of the Vorthak Empire spoke first. Her voice echoed through the hall like distant thunder. She was ancient, older than human civilization itself, and her words carried the weight of centuries. "Ambassador Morrison," she began, "we have called this assembly to address the human question. Your species has been part of galactic society for 50 years. In that time, you have caused nothing but trouble." Jake said nothing. He had been instructed to listen first, speak only when asked direct questions. The other species wanted to have their say. Let them. General Vextar of the Drachmary Republic stood next. His reptilian form towered over the assembly, scales gleaming under the crystal light. "Humans fight too much," he said, his voice a low growl. "You cannot go 10 years without war among yourselves. You bring this violence everywhere you go." The insectoid queen Nexus clicked her mandibles together. The sound filled the silence like breaking glass. "The hive mind speaks as one voice," she said. "Humans speak with millions of voices, all saying different things. This creates chaos. Chaos disrupts the natural order." Minister Zara Ellen of Ethereal Collective floated above her seat, her translucent form shimmering like water. "We have tried to teach humans the ways of civilized society," she said sadly. "They resist our guidance. They question everything. They refuse to accept the wisdom of ages." One by one, the other species added their voices. The silicon-based architects complained that humans built things too quickly, without proper planning. The gas giant-dwelling nebula dancers said humans moved through space like storms, disrupting the peaceful flow of cosmic energy. The ancient keepers of memory accused humans of caring more about the future than the past. Jake listened to it all. He had heard these complaints before, in smaller meetings, in diplomatic protests, in formal letters of concern. Now they were all here in one place, speaking with one voice. Finally, Empress Keela THYSS raised her hand for silence. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision," she announced. "By unanimous vote, humanity is expelled from galactic society. You have 30 days to remove all human presence from Council space. Your embassies will be closed. Your trade agreements are canceled. Your people must return to their own worlds." The hall fell silent. Every eye was on Jake Morrison, waiting for his response. They expected anger. They expected pleading. They expected threats or promises or desperate bargains. Jake took a deep breath. "The United Earth government respects the Council's decision," he said simply. "We will comply with all requirements for withdrawal." A murmur ran through the assembly. This was not what they had expected. Empress Keela THYSS leaned forward on her throne. "You have nothing else to say?" "Only this," Jake replied. "We came to the stars hoping to learn from older, wiser civilizations. We believed that joining the galactic community would make us better. Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps we have nothing to learn here after all." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the vast hall, the only sound in the stunned silence. At the doorway, he stopped and looked back. "The galaxy is a big place," he said. "There's room for everyone to find their own path." 6 months later, Captain Lisa Chong stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon as it crossed the boundary of Council space for the last time. Behind them, the lights of a dozen human colonies grew smaller and smaller. Ahead lay the unknown regions, the spaces between the spiral arms where humans would have to make their own way. "All ships report ready for jump to Sol System," her navigation officer reported. Lisa nodded. She thought about Jake Morrison's final words to the Council. The galaxy was indeed a big place, and humanity was about to discover just how big it could become when they were free to explore it on their own terms. "Jump when ready," she ordered. The Horizon and its escort colony ships disappeared into hyperspace. carry with them the last humans to leave galactic civilization. Behind them, the monitoring stations that the Council had placed around human space began their long watch, making sure the troublesome species stayed where they belonged. The aliens were satisfied. The problem was solved. Humanity was gone, and the galaxy could return to its peaceful, orderly ways. They had no idea what they had just set in motion. 50 years had passed since the last human ship left galactic space. In the great halls of Zentera Prime, the Council members rarely spoke of humanity anymore. When they did, it was only in passing, like mentioning an old problem that had been solved long ago. Whatever happened to those humans? Minister Zara Ellen asked during a break in trade negotiations. She floated near the crystal windows, watching ships come and go from the orbital stations. General Vextar made a dismissive sound, still hiding in their little corner of space. I imagine. The monitoring stations report normal activity. Nothing worth our attention. The monitoring stations did indeed report normal activity. Cargo ships moved between human worlds. Industrial signals came from their factories. Communication traffic flowed along predictable routes. Everything looked exactly as it should for a small group of primitive worlds trying to survive on their own. The aliens saw what they expected to see. They did not look deeper. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory on Earth, watching data streams flow across dozens of screens. As the Minister of Scientific Development, she oversaw humanity's greatest project. The galaxy had cut them off from alien technology, forcing humans to develop everything themselves. What the aliens thought was a punishment had become humanity's greatest gift. Show me the latest results from the quantum drive tests, she said to her assistant. The numbers appeared on the main screen. Elena smiled. Without access to alien technology, humans had been forced to understand the basic principles behind everything they built. They could not simply copy alien designs. They had to invent new ones. The breakthrough had come 20 years ago. Dr. Amy Patterson, working on the Colonial Expansion Initiative, had discovered something remarkable in the quantum foam that filled empty space. Where aliens saw nothing but void, humans found patterns. Where aliens accepted the limits of known physics, humans asked why those limits existed. The result was propulsion technology that worked on principles the galaxy had never discovered. Human ships could now travel faster and farther than anything in galactic space. But the monitoring stations only saw routine cargo runs between known human worlds. They had no idea that humanity was expanding into regions beyond their watch. Commander Ryan Foster reviewed tactical reports in his office at Luna Command. As head of military development, he had spent decades preparing for the day when humanity might face threats alone. The galaxy had taught them a hard lesson. They could depend on no one but themselves. The new destroyer class is ready for fleet trials, his aide reported. All systems test green. Ryan nodded. The ships looked nothing like the vessels humanity had built 50 years ago. Those had been copies of alien designs, built according to galactic standards. These new ships were purely human creations, designed around principles that no alien military academy taught. They were smaller than galactic warships, but infinitely more flexible. Where alien ships relied on massive firepower and heavy armor, human vessels used speed, stealth, and adaptability. They could change their mission profile in hours, reconfigure their weapons in minutes, and adapt their tactics in real time. Captain Steve Martinez piloted the exploration vessel UES Pioneer through a region of space that appeared on no galactic chart. His crew of 30 worked with quiet efficiency, mapping new worlds and searching for signs of ancient civilizations. Captain, his science officer called, "We're getting strange readings from the fourth planet. The surface scans show artificial structures." Steve studied the data. The planet was dead, its atmosphere long gone. But beneath the dust and ice lay the remains of cities that predated galactic civilization by millions of years. "Prepare a landing team," he ordered. "Full archaeological protocol." This was the third dead world they found in the outer regions. Each one told the same story. A great civilization that had risen, flourished, and then simply stopped growing. The ruins showed no signs of war or disaster. These people had simply become satisfied with what they had achieved and stopped pushing forward. The parallels to current galactic civilization were troubling. The same species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years still ruled it today. The same technologies that had been cutting edge a millennium ago were still considered advanced. The same political systems that had worked for past ages were still in place, unchanged and unchallenged. Back on Earth, Chancellor Rebecca Martinez read the latest reports from the exploration fleets. Humanity now controlled twice as many worlds as they had when they left galactic space. Their population was growing. Their technology was advancing. Their fleets were expanding into regions that had never known galactic rule. And through it all, the monitoring stations reported only routine activity in human space. "The Council thinks we're struggling to survive on our own," Rebecca said to her advisors. "They have no idea that we're thriving because we're on our own." Her communications director nodded. The latest intelligence from galactic space shows increasing tensions between the major powers. Trade disputes, border incidents, diplomatic failures. Their system is starting to show cracks. Rebecca studied the reports. The galaxy that had expelled humanity for being too chaotic was becoming less stable every year. The very predictability that the aliens prized was making them unable to handle new challenges. "Keep monitoring the situation," she ordered, "and keep our expansion classified. Let them think we're still the same primitive humans they remember." In the depths of space, human exploration vessels continued their work, pushing ever farther into the unknown. They carried with them the lessons learned from 50 years of isolation. That growth came from challenge, that strength came from struggle, and that the greatest discoveries waited beyond the edge of what was considered safe. The galaxy slept peacefully, confident that the human problem had been solved. They had no idea that humanity had not disappeared. They had evolved. Admiral Grace Thompson sat in her office deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, watching the galaxy tear itself apart on her screens. As head of human intelligence, she had spent decades monitoring galactic communications. What she saw now worried her more than any external threat. The Vordhak Empire and the Drachmary Republic had been fighting for 3 months. What started as a trade dispute over mining rights had grown into something much larger. Ships burned in the void between their territories. Colonies had been evacuated. Entire systems had gone dark. "The pattern is accelerating," her chief analyst reported. "Intelligence shows that neither side knows how to end this conflict. Their diplomatic protocols assume both parties want peace. But the Vordhak see compromise as weakness, and the Drachmary view negotiation as surrender." Grace nodded grimly. This was exactly what she had feared. The galactic powers had become so set in their ways that they could not adapt when their old methods failed. They were like ancient machines, run the same programs over and over, even when those programs no longer worked. On the other side of the galaxy, something even stranger was happening. Queen Nexus of the Hive Mind faced her first real crisis in 3 centuries. A group of her drones had begun questioning her decisions. In a species where every individual shared the same thoughts, independent thinking should have been impossible. The rebellion had started small. A few drones in the outer colonies began expressing doubts about the Queen's latest expansion plans. Instead of immediate compliance, they asked questions. Why expand into that system? What was the real purpose behind the new construction projects? Were the Queen's decisions truly best for the Hive? Dr. Henry Kim studied the intelligence reports from his position at Earth's Strategic Planning Center. As humanity's chief galactic analyst, he had been tracking these developments for months. His conclusions were troubling. "The galactic civilization is experiencing systemic failure," he told the assembled human council. "Every major power is dealing with problems they have never faced before, problems that their traditional methods cannot solve." Senator Claire Walker leaned forward in her chair. As Earth's chief diplomatic observer, she had been following the council's emergency sessions. "What kind of problems are we talking about?" Henry activated the main display. Star maps filled the room, showing the territories of each major galactic power. Red markers indicated areas of conflict or instability. "The Vordhak and Drachmary War is just beginning," he explained. "The Ethereal Collective is facing internal disputes about their role in galactic affairs. Some factions want to intervene in every conflict. Others want to withdraw from galactic politics entirely. They cannot agree on anything. He pointed to another section of the map. The silicon-based architects have stopped all new construction projects. Their leadership is paralyzed by analysis. They spend so much time planning the perfect solution that they never actually build anything. Claire studied the display and the monitoring stations around our space. Still reporting routine activity, Henry replied. They see what they expect to see. But the readings are getting more unusual. Our new technologies operate on principles they do not understand. They dismiss the strange readings as equipment errors. In the depths of space, Captain Tyler Brooks commanded the stealth vessel UES Shadow. His ship was invisible to galactic sensors, built using principles that the aliens had never discovered. He watched the battle for the Kepler system from a safe distance, recording everything. The Vordak fleet had trapped the Drachmarie task force near the system's fourth planet. What should have been a simple victory had turned into a bloody stalemate. Both sides were using the same tactics their ancestors had used for 1,000 years. Neither could adapt when those tactics failed. Captain, his communications officer reported, we're receiving distress signals from both fleets. Standard galactic emergency frequencies. Tyler frowned. From both sides. Yes, sir. Both fleets are calling for immediate medical assistance. Their casualty rates are much higher than expected. Through his view screen, Tyler could see the problem. The Vordak ships were built for massive frontal assaults. The Drachmarie vessels were designed for defensive fighting. When an irresistible force met a movable object, both sides suffered. Back on Earth, the Human Council reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The picture was clear and disturbing. The galaxy's major powers were failing not because of external threats, but because they could no longer handle the challenges of a changing universe. They expelled us because we were too chaotic, Chancellor Rebecca Martinez said quietly. They wanted predictability. They wanted order. They wanted everyone to follow the same rules and use the same methods. Dr. Elena Vasquez nodded. And now their predictability is killing them. They cannot adapt when their old methods fail. They cannot innovate when they face new problems. They cannot change when change is the only solution. The monitoring stations around Sol System continued their watch, reporting minimal human activity. They detected increased industrial output and more communication traffic, but nothing that seemed threatening. The aliens running the stations had no idea that they were watching a civilization that had grown beyond their ability to understand. In the hidden colonies beyond galactic knowledge, human scientists worked on projects that would have seemed like magic to the Council species. Human engineers built ships that operated on impossible principles. Human strategists developed tactics that broke every rule of galactic warfare. And in the darkness between the spiral arms, exploration vessels discovered more dead worlds. Ancient civilizations that had reached the same point the current galaxy now faced. Civilizations that had chosen safety over growth, order over innovation, predictability over adaptation. They had all made the same choice. They had all suffered the same fate. The question now was whether the current galactic civilization would learn from their mistakes, or follow them into the same peaceful, ordered extinction. Meanwhile, humanity continued to grow in the shadows, preparing for the day when the galaxy would need what it had once rejected. The controlled chaos of constant change, the strength that came from facing the unknown, and the wisdom to know that true survival required the courage to never stop becoming something new. The first star died without warning. One moment, the Kepler 442 system was home to 3 billion Drachmarie colonists. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space and scattered debris. The star itself was gone, consumed by something that defied every law of physics the galaxy understood. Fleet Admiral Marcus Stone received the alert in his command center on Luna. The message had traveled for 6 months through hyperspace, carrying news that would change everything. He read it 3 times before calling his staff. Gather the senior officers, he ordered. Emergency briefing in 10 minutes. The holographic display showed the last transmission from Kepler 442. A massive cloud of metallic shapes had emerged from the void between galaxies, moving faster than anything in recorded history. The shapes were not ships in any recognizable sense. They flowed like liquid metal, changing form as they moved, adapting to each new challenge they encountered. Dr. Rachel Adams studied the sensor data from her laboratory on Mars. As Earth's leading expert on unknown life forms, she had been called in to analyze the threat. What she found terrified her more than any nightmare. "They're not alive," she reported to the Emergency Council. "But they're not machines either. They exist in a state between organic and artificial intelligence. They learn from everything they encounter. They adapt to every defense. They absorb every piece of technology they find." The entity had consumed the Kepler system in less than 4 hours. It had analyzed the Drachmary defense systems, adapted to their weapons, and then used those same weapons against them. The colonists never had a chance. 3 days later, the Vorthak fortress world of Kefvar went silent. The ancient stronghold had guarded the galactic rim for 2,000 years. Its massive defense platform could destroy entire fleets. Its energy shields could withstand the blast of a dying star. None of it mattered against an enemy that could change the rules of physics itself. Empress Keela THYSS convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. For the first time in centuries, fear filled the crystal halls of Zentera Prime. The assembled leaders spoke in hushed tones about the impossible enemy that had appeared from the darkness between galaxies. "We call it the entropy swarm," General Vextar reported, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "Our best analysts believe it comes from outside our galaxy. It consumes everything in its path. Stars, planets, ships, entire civilizations. Nothing we have can stop it." Minister Zariellen's ethereal form flickered with distress. "We attempted diplomatic contact," she said sadly. "We sent our finest ambassadors with offers of peace and cooperation. The swarm consumed them along with their ship. It learned our language, our culture, our technology. Then it used that knowledge to attack our colonies." Queen Nexus clicked her mandibles in agitation. The hive mind calculations showed total galactic consumption in less than 10 standard years, she announced. "Current defensive measures have 0% success probability. All conventional strategies result in complete species extinction." The council chamber fell silent. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, rulers of civilizations that had endured for millennia. They had faced every challenge the universe could offer. Now they sat in terrified silence, watching their greatest weapons fail against an enemy they could not understand. Captain Tyler Brooks continued his covert observations from the stealth ship UES Shadow. His vessel had followed the swarm through 3 system conquests, recording everything from a safe distance. What he saw confirmed humanity's worst fears about galactic civilization. "The alien fleets are using the same tactics they've used for 1,000 years, he reported to Earth Command. "Massive formations, overwhelming firepower, rigid battle plans. The swarm adapt to each attack within hours. By the time the aliens realize their tactics aren't working, it's too late to change." He watched the destruction of the Ethereal Collective's home fleet through his sensors. 200 of their most advanced vessels, destroyed in less than an hour. The swarm had analyzed their energy weapons, developed countermeasures, and then turned their own technology against them. Dr. Sandra Lopez worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. As Earth's chief military scientist, she had been tasked with finding weaknesses in the swarm's defenses. What she discovered was even more disturbing than the threat itself. "The swarm isn't just consuming matter and energy," she reported to the Human High Command. "It's consuming information. Every battle teaches it something new. Every conquered world adds to its knowledge base. It's getting smarter and more dangerous with each victory." Her analysis showed a terrifying pattern. The swarm had started with simple absorption techniques. Now it was developing sophisticated strategies, psychological warfare, and even attempts at deception. It was learning from every species encountered, becoming more than the sum of its parts. On the galactic rim, the last survivors of the Drachmary Third Fleet sent desperate messages into the void. Admiral Kektar, once proud commander of the Republic's finest ships, now led a ragged collection of damaged vessels in a running battle against an unstoppable enemy. To any who received this transmission, his message began, "The conventional forces of the galaxy cannot stop this threat. Our weapons are useless. Our tactics are obsolete. Our entire military doctrine is based on fighting enemies that follow the same rules we do. This enemy follows no rules at all. The message would take months to reach the core worlds. By then, the Drachma Republic will be nothing but a memory in the swarm's vast digital consciousness. In the deep space monitoring stations around Sol System, alien technicians noticed unusual readings from human space. Power signatures that didn't match any known technology. Communications traffic using encryption methods that seemed impossible. Industrial activity that suggested massive construction projects. The station commanders dismissed these readings as equipment malfunctions. After all, the humans were primitive. They had been isolated for nearly a century. What could they possibly be building that would concern the advanced civilizations of the galaxy? None of them realized that they were detecting the preparations for humanity's return to galactic affairs. Ships unlike anything in known space. Weapons that operated on principles the galaxy had never discovered. Technologies that could adapt and evolve as quickly as the threats they faced. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes a solution to an impossible problem required impossible thinking, and humanity had spent a century learning to think in ways that the ordered, predictable galaxy had forgotten were possible. Ambassador Karen Davis stared at the incoming transmission with disbelief. After 90 years of silence, the Galactic Council was calling humanity for help. The message arrived on an emergency diplomatic frequency that had not been used since the day humans left galactic space. The transmission was desperate. Static filled half the signal, suggesting it had been sent from a damaged relay station. Through the interference, she could hear multiple alien voices speaking in overlapping translations. To the human government, the message began, the Galactic Council formally requests immediate assistance in the current crisis. Previous disagreements are acknowledged as misunderstandings. The galaxy faces extinction. We need your help. Karen played the message 3 times before calling Chancellor Rebecca Martinez. The leader of humanity would need to hear this personally. Within hours, the Human High Council convened in the secure chambers beneath Geneva. Representatives from every human world attended, either in person or through quantum communication links. The debate that followed would shape the future of 2 civilizations. They threw us out, argued Senator Mike Johnson from the Mars colonies. They called us primitive and dangerous. They said we had nothing to offer galactic civilization. Now, they want our help when they're in trouble. Dr. Patricia Rivera stood to respond. As head of the Colonial Science Council, she had spent decades studying the galactic crisis from afar. The entropy swarm will reach our space eventually, she said calmly. Our analysis shows it will consume the entire galaxy within 8 years. Fighting it alongside the aliens gives us better odds than facing it alone. Chancellor Martinez listened to both sides. The arguments continued for 3 days. Some humans wanted revenge for their expulsion. Others wanted to remain hidden and safe. A few suggested that humanity should let the galaxy fall and then claim the empty space of themselves. The decision came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez presented new intelligence from the deep space monitoring stations. The swarm had detected Earth's quantum signatures. Humanity was already on its target list. We can fight them now with allies, she explained, or fight them later when they're stronger and we're alone. The choice is simple. President William Chong of the Outer Colonies provided the final argument. Our computers have run every possible scenario, he reported. The swarm grows stronger with each victory. If we wait until it finishes with the galactic powers, it will be unstoppable. Our only chance is to act now. Chancellor Martinez called for a vote. The result was close but clear. Humanity would help the galaxy, but on their own terms. Dr. Sandra Lopez briefed the Council on humanity's capabilities. The presentation shocked even the human leadership. During their century of isolation, human science had advanced beyond anything the galaxy could imagine. We've developed technologies based on quantum consciousness manipulation, she explained. Our ships can adapt their physical structure in real time. Our weapon systems learn from enemy responses and evolve countermeasures automatically. Our tactical computers operate on principles that most alien species would consider impossible. Admiral Victoria Turner outlined the military situation. The human fleet was smaller than the galactic powers had been, but it was built on completely different principles. Our ships don't rely on massive firepower or heavy armor, she said. They use speed, adaptability, and unpredictability. Where alien vessels are designed to follow battle plans, our ships are designed to improvise solutions. The most important difference was in human tactical thinking. Where aliens develop strategies based on predictable enemy behavior, humans plan for chaos. Where alien commanders followed established doctrine, human officers were trained to break rules when rules didn't work. Captain Noah Williams demonstrated this during war games in the asteroid belt. His small frigate faced off against a simulated alien dreadnought. According to every tactical manual in galactic space, the frigate should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, Noah used a maneuver that violated 3 different laws of physics. His ship appeared to retreat while simultaneously attacking from behind. The simulation computer crashed trying to calculate the impossible movement patterns. "This is how humans fight," Admiral Turner explained to the amazed observers. "We don't follow the rules. We rewrite them as needed." The final factor in humanity's decision was the ancient ruins they had discovered in the outer regions. Captain Steve Martinez's exploration teams had found 17 dead civilizations, all showing the same pattern. Each one reached a point where they stopped growing, he reported. They achieved perfect order, perfect predictability, perfect safety. Then they simply stopped. No wars, no disasters, no external threats. They just became so satisfied with what they had accomplished that they forgot how to face new challenges. Dr. Amy Patterson analyzed the archaeological data. The current galactic civilization is following the same path, she concluded. They've become so focused on maintaining their established order that they've lost the ability to adapt. The entropy swarm isn't just a military threat. It's an evolutionary test. And the galaxy is failing. Chancellor Martinez made the final announcement to the Council. "We will provide assistance to galactic powers," she declared. "But we will do so as equals, not as supplicants seeking readmission to their club. We will fight this war using human methods and human leadership." The message sent to the Galactic Council was simple and direct. Humanity accepts your request for assistance. Prepare to receive human military advisors and fleet units. Be advised that human tactical doctrine differs significantly from galactic standard procedures. Adaptation will be required from all parties. On Zentera Prime, the alien leaders received humanity's response with mixed emotions. Relief that help was coming, fear of what that help might cost them, and deep uncertainty about what humans had become during their century of exile. They were about to discover that the primitive species they had expelled had evolved into something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that thrived on change, grew stronger through challenge, and found opportunity in the heart of chaos itself. The humans were coming back, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Daniel Ross watched the planet New Geneva burn from the bridge of his flagship. The world had once been home to 50 million Vortax civilians. Now it was a battlefield where the last survivors made their desperate stand against the entropy swarm. His fleet hung in space just outside the combat zone. 12 human vessels, each one smaller than a single Vortax cruiser, but built using principles that the galaxy had never imagined. Around them, the scattered remains of the Galactic Defense Force struggled to maintain their formation. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the Vortax commander is requesting immediate assistance. Their lines are collapsing." Daniel studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was fighting exactly as their ancestors had for thousands of years. Massive ships in rigid formations, pouring firepower into an enemy that adapted faster than they could adjust their tactics. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Begin Human Tactical Protocol 7. Ignore all Galactic Fleet Coordination signals." Colonel Jennifer Adams stood in the briefing room of the Combined Fleet Command Station, facing a room full of alien officers who looked at her with a mixture of desperation and doubt. As the first human military advisor assigned to galactic forces, she had the impossible task of teaching century-old tactics to minds that had never known change. "Your current battle doctrine assumes the enemy will follow predictable patterns," she began, displaying holographic battle simulations. "The entropy swarm does not follow any patterns. It learns from every attack and develops countermeasures in real time. General Vextar the Drachmary raised his massive clawed hand. "Human tactics appear to be random chaos," he growled. "How can we coordinate fleet movements when no one follows the established battle plans?" Jennifer smiled grimly. "That's exactly the point. Coordination doesn't require everyone to do the same thing. It requires everyone to work toward the same goal using their own methods." She activated a new simulation showing human ships in combat. The vessels moved in patterns that seemed completely random to alien eyes. They attacked from impossible angles, retreated when they should advance, and advanced when retreat seemed logical. "Watch what happens when we engage the swarm simulation," Jennifer said. The holographic battle played out before the assembled officers. The swarm tried to adapt to human tactics, but every time it developed a countermeasure, the human ships changed their approach. The machines found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to be predictable. Captain Noah Williams led the first joint operation in the Kepler sector. His frigate squadron worked alongside Drachmary destroyers and ethereal support vessels. The coordination was a disaster from the start. Human vessel Luna Wolf. Came the angry transmission from the Drachmary commander. "You are breaking formation and endangering the mission." Noah checked his tactical display. His ships had scattered across the battlefield in what looked like complete disorder to alien eyes. But each vessel was exactly where it needed to be for the plan to work. "Drachmary squadron," he replied calmly. "Maintain your current position and prepare for synchronized strike in 30 seconds. The alien commander protested, but Noah ignored him. His ships continued their seemingly chaotic dance around the swarm formation. The enemy machines tracked each human vessel, calculating interception courses and preparing countermeasures. Then Noah sprang his trap. What had looked like random movement was actually an elaborate deception. His ships had been herding the swarm into a perfect ambush position. When the Allied fleet opened fire, the enemy found themselves caught in a crossfire from directions they had not anticipated. The victory was decisive, but it left the alien commanders more confused than ever. Dr. Michelle Parker worked in the engineering sections of the combined fleet, trying to adapt human quantum disruption technology for alien ship systems. The project required her to work directly with ethereal scientists whose thought processes operated on completely different principles. "Your technology changes too quickly," complained Dr. Zetharn, her ethereal counterpart. "We perfect our systems over centuries of careful refinement. Humans seem to redesign everything from day to day." Michelle paused in her work on the quantum resonance chamber. "That's because perfection is a trap," she explained. "The moment you stop improving something, it becomes obsolete. Our technology evolves because our enemies evolve." She demonstrated by showing 2 different versions of the same human weapon system. The first had been used 6 months ago. The second incorporated 17 different improvements based on battle experience. Each improvement seemed small, she said, but together they make the weapon 3 times more effective. Your perfect systems can't do that because perfect means finished, and finished means dead. General Kevin Brown established the first integrated command center where human and alien officers worked side by side. The cultural clash was immediate and intense. Aliens expected clear chains of command and detailed operational procedures. Humans thrived on improvisation and rapid decision-making. The breakthrough came during a simulated battle exercise. The mixed command team faced a scenario where their planned tactics failed completely. The alien officers began requesting new orders from higher command. The human officers started adapting their approach in real time. "Stop waiting for permission," Commander Lisa Powell told her alien counterparts. "The enemy won't wait while you ask for new instructions. Make the best decision you can with the information you have, and adjust as you learn more." The concept was revolutionary to minds that had been trained to follow established procedures for thousands of years. But when they finally tried it, the results were immediate and dramatic. The simulated battle that had been a guaranteed defeat became a narrow victory. The real test came at the Battle of Tau Ceti 7, where the largest swarm concentration ever encountered threatened to break through to the galactic core. The combined fleet faced impossible odds using tactics that had failed everywhere else. Commander Lisa Powell proposed a strategy that seemed like madness to every alien officer present. Instead of trying to stop the swarm's advance, they would let it think it was winning. They would feed it false information about human weaknesses, and then exploit the enemy's overconfidence. "You want us to pretend to lose?" asked the Vorthak fleet commander in disbelief. "I want us to make the enemy so confident in its victory that it stops being careful," Lisa replied. "Then we hit it where it's not expecting an attack." The plan required perfect timing and complete trust between species that had never worked together before. It was exactly the kind of impossible coordination that should have failed. Instead, it delivered the first major victory against the entropy swarm. The enemy machines, convinced they understood human tactics, walked directly into a trap that used their own adaptive abilities against them. As the swarm forces retreated for the first time in their existence, the alien commanders finally began to understand what humanity brought to galactic civilization, not just new technology or different tactics. Fleet Admiral Christopher Hayes stood on the bridge of a U.S. Defiance as a combined galactic armada prepared for the final battle. Around him, ships from every species in known space formed the largest fleet in galactic history. Human vessels worked alongside Vorthak dreadnoughts, Drachma destroyers, and ethereal support ships. The enemy waited at the galactic core. The entropy swarm had concentrated its forces around the ancient black hole that anchored their galaxy. Trillions of machine entities formed a sphere of destruction that pulsed with stolen energy from 100 consumed worlds. "All fleet commanders report ready," his communications officer announced. "Human, Vorthak, Drachma, ethereal, and hive mind squadrons are in position." Christopher nodded. 2 years of warfare had taught the galaxy's species to work together in ways their ancestors never imagined. The rigid command structures of the past had given way to flexible coordination that could adapt to any situation. But this final battle would require more than adaptation. It would require the greatest deception in galactic history. Dr. Patricia Rivera monitored the operation from her command ship in the second wave. Her team had spent months preparing the false technological signatures that would make their strategy possible. Across 50 different worlds, automated systems broadcast fake energy readings that told a convincing story. The plan was simple in concept, but incredibly complex in execution. The swarm learned from every battle, adapting to each new weapon and tactic encountered, so humanity would teach it to adapt to threats that did not exist. "Phase 1 is active," she reported to Admiral Hayes. "All decoy systems are broadcasting. The swarm should detect our fake weapon signatures within the hour." On a dozen worlds throughout the galaxy, massive installations powered up and began generating energy patterns that looked like super weapons charging for a devastating attack. The readings were carefully crafted to appear like the logical next step in human technological development. Captain Tyler Brooks commanded one of the stealth squadrons hidden in the dark matter clouds near the galactic core. His ships were invisible to swarm sensors, carrying the real weapons that would end the war. While the enemy focused on the fake threats, the true attack would come from where they least expected it. "Swarm forces are repositioning," his sensor officer reported. "They're adapting their formation to counter the energy signatures from the decoy worlds." Tyler smiled grimly. The machines were falling for humanity's greatest lie. They thought they understood human tactics well enough to predict the next move. They were preparing to counter weapons that existed only in their own calculations. The battle began at exactly 1430 Galactic Standard Time. The combined fleet charged directly at the swarm concentration, following attack patterns that had been used in previous engagements. To the enemy machines, it looked like another conventional assault using known human tactics. Commander Sarah Mitchell led the first wave in her cruiser, UES Thunderbolt. Her ships engaged the outer swarm defenses, using weapons and strategies the enemy had seen before. The machines responded exactly as expected, deploying countermeasures they had developed in earlier battles. "They're taking the bait," she reported as swarm forces moved to intercept her squadron. "Enemy is committing primary defensive assets to counter our approach." Meanwhile, the real attack was already in motion. Deep in the quantum foam that surrounded the galactic core, human scientists had discovered something the machines never suspected. The black hole itself could be turned into a weapon. Dr. Angela Foster worked frantically in her laboratory ship as the battle raged around them. Her quantum manipulation devices were doing something that should have been impossible. They were teaching the black hole to recognize the swarm's energy signatures as food. "Quantum cascade is initializing," she announced. "The singularity is beginning to differentiate between swarm and organic matter. Target acquisition in 60 seconds." The entropy swarm suddenly found itself facing an enemy it could not understand or adapt to. The black hole that had anchored the galaxy for millions of years began actively hunting the machine intelligences. Gravity itself turned against them. One by one, swarm vessels found themselves pulled inexorably toward the event horizon. Their adaptive capabilities were useless against a force of nature that operated on principles beyond their programming. Admiral Hayes watched the enemy formation collapse as thousands of machine entities vanished into hungry darkness. "All fleet units, begin final approach. The swarm is broken." The war ended not with a massive explosion, but with the quiet dissolution of the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The machines that had seemed unstoppable simply faded away, consumed by the very cosmos they had tried to conquer. 6 months later, delegates from every species gathered on the human world of New Olympia to sign the Phoenix Accords. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by a new system based on merit rather than tradition. Chancellor Sandra Johnson stood before the Assembly as humanity's chief representative. Behind her sat the leaders of species that had once considered humans too primitive for civilized society. "The galaxy faces an uncertain future," she told the gathered delegates. "We don't know what challenges await us beyond the rim, or what threats might emerge in the dark spaces between stars. But we face them together as equals, using every strength our combined civilizations can offer." Senator Maria Torres addressed the new Galactic Assembly in its first official session. "You once expelled us because we were chaotic and unpredictable," she said, looking directly at the former council members. "You were right about the chaos. That chaos saved us all." The transformation of galactic civilization was complete. The static perfection that had nearly led to extinction was replaced by dynamic growth. The rigid hierarchies that stifle innovation gave way to flexible cooperation. The fear of change became eagerness for discovery. Admiral Rachel Green oversaw the integration of human officers into the new Galactic Defense Force. Every commander, regardless of species, learned human tactical flexibility. Every ship carried adaptive systems that could evolve with changing circumstances. The exploration fleets that departed from New Olympia carried mixed crews representing every major species. Captain Alex Morgan's vessel, the U.S. Pioneer, included Vorthak engineers, Drachmary tacticians, ethereal scientists, and human explorers. Their destination was a vast unknown that lay beyond the galactic rim. They carried with them the most important lesson learned from humanity's return, that true strength came not from perfect order, but from the controlled chaos of constant growth. The galaxy that had once let humanity walk away now followed human leadership into an uncertain but promising future. They had learned that civilization's greatest achievement was not reaching perfection, but never stopping the journey towards something better. In the end, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their tactics. It was a simple understanding that the universe belonged to those brave enough to keep moving forward, no matter how comfortable it might be to stay still.